Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again for another Film Fanatic show. It is it is Wednesday at 10:47. Pretty overcasty day. We've had some sweet, amazing weather lately, but I don't know. Comes and goes. Hopefully, it will clear up later. So I hope everyone's doing good. 10:47, like I said. So yeah, I just been back to cranking out videos here at the Film Fanatic headquarters. So super fun, and thank again. Got some new subscribers this week, and people always commenting on the videos every day. So that's really sweet, and really appreciate the love and respect. Could not do any of this crazy stuff without you guys. So really appreciate it. And again, I'm always amazed by how many movies I just when I think I've covered all the movies in my collection, I realize, oh wait, there's a shit ton of other movies, and then other movies that I want to see, and talk about. And today I just uploaded a show I recorded yesterday. Typically, I record the videos. I record a couple of videos, and then each day I kind of upload as I go. And usually here at Film Fanatic headquarters, I usually record a video every day. And sometimes I set the movies, the videos up as premieres, but try to mix things up. I might be going to the movies this weekend. Kind of excited to see what we might go see. Reached out to a couple of friends, fellow Film Fanatic friends. We go to a lot of movies together, so trying to see what's going to be coming. There's a couple of movies coming out. There's one horror film that I'm kind of interested, but a little bit on the fence about seeing, and so I don't know, might see that. And there's also a movie I'm actually really excited to see, and there's a new kind of spin-off John Wick movie that's come out. I think it's called Ballerina, and it's coming out. I think it opens this weekend. I'm actually excited to see that. We'll see, but Sunday might be the day to go to the movies. It's been a while. I'm trying to think. Last time I went to the movies technically was about almost 2 weeks ago or a week ago. I went to the Waldo After Dark. They've been doing this amazing series on, and it's been a tribute to David Lynch. And I did get to see, they announced they were going to be doing 3 movies. And I went to the first two. I went to go see Eraserhead, which was just an incredible experience. I did a video on that, and then I just saw Wild at Heart, which is a really important movie for me because that was my favorite David Lynch movie of all time is Blue Velvet, but Wild at Heart was the first David Lynch movie I ever saw, and that ushered in. That was shortly a little bit before, I think, before Twin Peaks was was released onto the world. So that was such a pivotal movie for me. So that introduced me to Laura Dern, Willem Dafoe, and my favorite actor of all time, Nicolas Cage. So I did a show on that, but then there's going to be one more movie in the series, Mulholland Drive, and that's going to be this weekend. But unfortunately, I can't go to that one. I love that movie to death. I think that actually is the only David Lynch movie I got a chance to see in the theater when it came out, in its first release, and I saw that in the theater. Amazing movie. I have not seen that movie in a very very long time, so I'm super bummed I can't make it. But it's a pretty awesome, stunning conclusion to this whole thing. So the Waldo After Dark. I'm good friends with those guys, Buffy and Sam. They're amazing people. We go to the movies quite a bit, and so great people, and they just do such great work. So please support them when you can. Down at the Waldo Theater in downtown Waldoboro, Maine. So, and then yesterday I recorded a video, and I just uploaded it a few minutes ago about the all things Frankenstein. And I just saw the trailer for Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein movie that's coming out in November. And I was kind of floored by the trailer. I thought the trailer looked absolutely incredible. So I don't usually do trailer reviews for this channel. I have done some. I mean, I two that I did that I can think of off the top of my head was for Robert Eggers' Nosferatu, and also Fede Alvarez's Alien Romulus. And I probably have done one or two others, but I generally don't do. That's a big trend on YouTube for people to do that, or to do the live trailer watch, trailer reaction or out of the theater reaction kind of a thing. I don't usually do that. I mean, maybe at some point I will, but generally I don't do those videos. But I was really stunned by how fantastic this trailer looked. So that spurred a bunch of ideas. Frankenstein is one of my favorite classic monsters when it comes to gothic horror. So I decided to do a show where I talk about, well, my reaction to this trailer, Guillermo del Toro as a director, and also all of the Frankenstein movies that have been coming out for almost 100 years, and my thoughts about this new one, and kind of where that all sits in the world of horror cinema. So I just uploaded that video. It's a longer video. There's a lot to talk about. It spurred on all these ideas, so check that out if you get a chance. It's about a 40-minute video, but I like the long form videos because I can kind of explain and maybe ramble on a little bit. But today's show is going to be on. I've been in the midst of doing these other video projects. I've also been doing a lot of music projects and stuff too with the channel, and I'm going to be probably doing another one where I'm going to do. I did one show about what was a few weeks ago, where it was well, it was kind of an original piece, and it was just an experiment really, and I was kind of happy with how the whole thing came out, and I got some good feedback around it. But basically, I did a kind of like a short little video where I did the music for it, recorded some music, and the music was all improvised, and I've been listening to a lot of weird noise music lately, and so that was a big inspiration. And then I wanted to do like a kind of a theatrical thing with the masks that I own, and I put together this little video. It's like a 10-minute video, and it's real raw, it's real rough, and it was all just one take. And I went into it with this idea of having having a couple things, like about 3 or 4 things that I definitely wanted to do, more or less like theatrical marks or like guidelines. But everything else I wanted to be real fresh, and just kind of in the moment. And if it came out bad, obviously I would have, not have posted it. But I wanted to keep it raw. I wanted to kind of keep it in the moment. So that's that was kind of the vibe of it, and I don't know, I was pretty happy with it. So at some point I'm gonna be doing another video like that. So stay tuned for that. So, and it's funny, like when I'm talking about those things, like my whole like process and my whole kind of take on recording music has changed so much over the years. I've always been into, everything music and movies that have kind of this rawness to it. But I've gotten more and more into it. Before I started writing my own music, or I should say, when I first started writing my own music, and then also first started recording my music, and then it also was a thing of where I worked, with other people recording music. I did not like recording at all. I really hated the process. I never felt comfortable. It was always tedious. It felt more like a job, and everything was, I felt like everything was kind of in this laboratory. I don't know. It always felt I never felt comfortable in the space. But I kind of made myself do that kind of work because it's a really great thing. Now I love it. I love recording music. That's like one of my favorite things to do whenever I get a chance to. But at that time, it was a funny time because, when I got out of college, when I got out of Berkeley College of Music, I was back and forth between different places. Um, I grew up in New York, and then I was in Boston going to school, and my folks moved here to Maine. So I was kind of like, I wasn't sure what I was going to do, and going to Berkeley was one of the greatest experiences I've ever had in my life, but then also one of the hardest experiences I've ever had in my life. And whenever it comes up, I meet like younger people, or just in conversation sometimes. I'll talk about my experiences at Berkeley, and I've had people, some really incredible musicians approach me about, looking for advice about should they go there, and what it entails. And I always, even though it was such a tough experience, I always recommend people to do it because I really think Berkeley is like the greatest music school on the face of the earth, and there's so many new things that they do now. It's it's just amazing. But at the same time, I've heard it's changed a little bit, but I'm sure it's still a big part of it. But when I was there, it was brutal. It was like going into like the fucking Marines or like a boot camp. I mean, it was brutal because you get your ass kicked if you go there with this feeling of, oh, I'm pretty good, or I can do this pretty well. That does not last very long because you get knocked out pretty quick. And so it's very hard to, especially when you're young, you have this thing of where, when you're younger, you kind of get a little cocky about certain things, and you know, but ultimately, those ass kickings were the best ass kickings of my life. And so, but I was, after school, I wasn't sure where I was going to go, and I eventually moved to Maine. I was actually going to, I was in a process when I was at school at the very tail end that I was going to be starting a band with this guy who lived in Boston, and I was almost going to stay there and work with this band that he was putting together. But I don't know, things changed, and I don't know. And then I ended up coming to Maine and I fell in love with Maine, and my folks had been here for a couple of years at that point, and so forth. And then I made some connections. But one of the things I ended up doing was I ended up um, doing a bunch of recording after school. I ended up doing, it was probably 4 or 5 months. I started playing a couple of gigs here and there, and I was like, 21, 22 at the time. I started doing a couple of like gigs here and there, function gigs, and then I started meeting these other musicians that were just really amazing, that were much more experienced than I was, and they had a lot of patience with me, especially when it came to jazz and stuff. So, but I during that time I got asked to do a bunch of recording work, like session. I guess you'd call it session work, where musicians get hired to do lots of recording sessions and things. And there was a studio in town at the time, and it was a real active studio, and I got asked to do all of these recording sessions, and so I ended up like recording all these kind of rock gigs for these different rock bands that were coming through town. And it was good because I just said yes to it because well, it was a paying gig. These were all paying gigs, but then I also wanted the experience, even though I, I just, like I said, I hated the process, but it was a really great experience. And I ended up having, um, you know, it was a big learning curve, and it was really really hard for me, but I made myself do it, and I ended up enjoying it, and I made a pretty good amount of money doing it for a while. And the thing that was really cool was I ended up getting to work with like this amazing producer, I believe his name was so long ago was Buddy Revell, and he was a producer who worked on a lot of amazing music and worked with a lot of incredible artists in the 50s and 60s. Like he worked with, I mean, his resume was incredible. Like he worked with Eric Clapton, and he worked with um, Bob Dylan, and he like produced a lot of their albums, and it was incredible. I was 21. I was really super green, no experience, but I was just trying to figure out what the fuck I was going to do, and I just threw myself into it. And I knew working with somebody who was that, incredible was going to be a good thing, and I learned a lot, and it was a really great experience. And I did for about, I don't know, a couple of years on and off. I did a bunch of these recording sessions for different rock bands and different groups that were from out of town that were passing through, and this studio was a very active studio, so it was a great experience, and then having that experience of working with such a great producer. But anyway, so now I'm doing these other weird little projects, and now I love recording music. So, but anyway, today's show, I've been in the midst of doing these other things. I've been slowly finishing up the coverage of all of these westerns that I've been watching. I got this big DVD box set a few months ago, and it's pretty awesome. Every movie, these are all like old school westerns. These are all westerns I have never seen. None of these movies I've ever seen. A lot of them are these really super low budget American westerns, and also there's a lot of Italian spaghetti westerns, which I love. Again, I love the low budget. I love the crap. I love um, the rawness of exploitation movies. So that's my jam, and a lot of these movies are definitely a part of that world. So I'm really excited, and but a lot of these are really old films. Today's show is on a movie that's called Rage at Dawn, and it's from 1955. Again, it's an American film. The history of westerns is really interesting. I mean, it really was. I think the Western cinema is a unique cinema because it's uniquely an American cinema. I mean, of course, you had amazing directors like John Ford that really put westerns in the forefront, and kind of in the late 40s and definitely in the 50s was when westerns became a thing. A lot of American westerns were became big popular films. John Wayne, and then eventually, in the late 50s to the early 60s, the Italians and a lot of European directors, were really starting to make their own westerns, and they were really influenced by a lot of the classic American westerns. And a lot of those films, the tone of a lot of westerns really shifted to much more of a darker area. Westerns got a lot darker and a lot more violent, and more raw and more brutal, and I think in some ways more realistic to what it was actually like to be alive during that time period. And I gravitate towards those movies more. But I do love the classic American westerns, and this one is a film I never saw before. And again, this is part of this giant box set that I got here. And it's really good. It's like, again, every movie I've seen in here, I've never seen. There's a bunch of John Wayne films. There's Charles Bronson films, who is amazing. I just watched one of the first movie in this collection with Charles Bronson, which is amazing. I can't wait to talk about it. Lee Van Cleef. I mean, it's just awesome. And there's 28 movies on here, so it's taken me a little while to get through all of this, but I'm enjoying it, and every movie has been fantastic. And this movie is definitely an old school western that I had never seen before. It's from 1955, old school, putting the old school in the old school, if you will. It was directed by Tim Whelan, and it stars Randolph Scott, Forrest Tucker, and Mela Powers. It's a really great film, and it's a pretty dark film. It's about this group of these train robbers, and eventually there is this kind of love triangle that forms with some of these characters, and there's kind of this ultimate showdown. It's pretty good. There's a pretty good story. It's pretty solid. It's from 1955. I would say that this movie, I don't know, maybe it's like well, it's from 55, so of course it's going to be dated, but I think this movie might feel a little bit more dated compared to some of these other films I've watched. But that really doesn't diminish kind of the enjoyment that I have with this film. And it was, from what I take from watching, my take of, from after watching this film when I finished this the other night, was this came out in 55, and this was very much a big budget western for its time, especially with an American cinema. But it's fun, and it's a fun, enjoyable film. It's pretty dark actually, and there's a couple of scenes where there's like these group of characters that get all where there's like this group hanging, which is kind of brutal. But it's great. It's a good adventure, some good gunfights. Again, the one thing that does that's not great about this set is a lot of these movies are just absolutely terrible quality because these are like burnt DVDs. I just finished this. This is the second disc with Rage at Dawn, and I just finished this the other day, and I just started the third disc, and there's four all together. So I'm really excited about talking about those when that comes up. It's funny when I was set to go and watch these movies, I have a little bit of an obsessive personality with certain things. So, and I get when I get down a rabbit hole, I go and go and go until I'm cross-eyed a lot of the times, which probably isn't a surprise for anybody who watches these videos. But I was hell bent on like, okay, I'm gonna just, when it came to this collection of like all 20 of these movies, I was like, fuck it, I'm going down, I'm going all the way, and I'm like realizing, well, like that's 20 movies in a row, and typically I watch one movie a day. Sometimes I watch two or three. Usually on a Sunday I'll watch two movies or so, but typically I watch one movie a day, and so I was like, I'm gonna go for it. But then I realized, and I started watching a shit ton of westerns, and I kind of got a little bit burnt out. I need a little bit of a break. So I've been like feeling like, okay, I got to watch some other films, watch some other styles, which I've been doing. And I realized, wait, I'm not in any rush to get through all of this. Like, I'm not. There's no time limit, so I'm taking my time. But that's kind of how my weird brain works sometimes. It's kind of funny, but super fun. And so I'll be picking away, doing some more of these movies till the stunning conclusion. But again, I just started the third disc last night with this. Just watched this awesome movie with Charles Bronson. Really excited to talk about that movie called Chino. So yeah, very very cool. Massive fan of this stuff. So we will see you soon. Peace.